Hey everyone, it's Sam here, and today we are talking about Max Verstappen and Red Bull, because after what happened at the British Grand Prix this weekend, there is a lot to get into. If you watched the British Grand Prix this weekend, you saw Max Verstappen end up buried in the gravel trap at Stowe Corner with just 4 laps to go. It was a miserable end to a miserable weekend. But what you might not know is that the crash was just the final straw. The real drama between Verstappen and Red Bull started long before the race even began, behind closed doors, in a massive argument over an engine. Right now, Verstappen is sitting in 7th place in the 2026 championship. He is a massive 103 points behind the leader, Kimi Antonelli. This is not the dominant Max Verstappen we are used to seeing, and the frustration is completely boiling over. To understand why Verstappen was so angry on Sunday, we have to rewind to qualifying on Saturday. Verstappen finished the session in 7th place, nearly a full second off the pole position time. But the lap time was not the biggest issue. The biggest issue was how the car felt. Throughout the entire qualifying session, Verstappen was on the radio to his race engineer, Giampiero Lambiase, complaining about the power unit. He told the team that the engine was not responding normally. He called the situation a complete disaster. When he finally climbed out of the car, he did not hold back in front of the media. He said there was a clear problem with the engine that the team could not identify, and he bluntly stated that there was no point in even trying to race with the car in that condition. This led to a major showdown with the Red Bull management. Verstappen went to the team bosses and demanded that they change the engine. Because the car was already under Parc Fermé rules, changing the engine would mean taking a grid penalty and starting the race from the pit lane. For a 4-time world champion, starting from the pit lane is usually the absolute last resort. But Verstappen was so unhappy with his current engine that he actually preferred to start from the very back, with a fresh power unit, rather than start 7th with an engine he did not trust. He even told the Dutch media that if the team left the car exactly the same, there was little point in racing. He wanted to change everything. But Red Bull management, led by Laurent Mekies, put their foot down. They said no. They decided that the engine issue was manageable and that taking a pit lane penalty was not the right strategy. They forced Verstappen to line up on the grid in 7th place with the exact same car he had just heavily criticised. Mekies tried to play it down to the media, saying it was fine that Verstappen had his own view on the situation, but Verstappen was not letting it go. As he walked to the grid on Sunday, a reporter asked him about the engine decision. Verstappen just shook his head and told the reporter to ask the team why they did it, because he would have done it differently. So, the race started with a driver who was already furious with his own team. And almost immediately, the problems Verstappen had warned them about started to appear. He made up one position at the start and was fighting his teammate Isaac Hadjar for 5th place, but the radio messages quickly turned sour. Verstappen complained that the downshifts were terrible. A few laps later, he started shouting about the electrical deployment from the power unit, telling the team that there was no way the energy delivery was normal. Despite driving a car that he felt was fundamentally broken, Verstappen actually managed to drag it up into the podium positions. He was helped by some crazy drama ahead of him, including Kimi Antonelli suffering a wheel shield failure and Lewis Hamilton getting a 5-second penalty. Suddenly, Verstappen was running in 3rd place, fighting with George Russell and Hamilton. But Verstappen knew it was a fake position. He admitted after the race that even if he had finished on the podium, it would not have been deserved because the car was incredibly slow on the hard tyres. He said he had no idea how he managed to keep Russell and Hamilton behind him for as long as he did. He complained about having a terrible balance and absolutely no top speed compared to the other cars. He had warned the team on Saturday. They had ignored him, and now he was having to overdrive a struggling car just to stay in the mix. And then, on lap 48, the car finally gave up. As Verstappen threw the car into the incredibly fast Stowe corner at the end of the hangar straight, the rear end just completely snapped away from him. There was no warning, and there was absolutely nothing he could do to catch it. The car spun wildly across the runoff area and beached itself in the gravel. His race was over, and the reason for the crash was the exact same issue that had caused him to crash during qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix just 1 week earlier. It was a failure of the rear wing. This season, Red Bull has been running a very complex, flexible rear wing that the paddock has nicknamed the Macarena wing. The idea is that the wing flexes under heavy aerodynamic load on the straights to reduce drag and increase top speed, and then snaps back into its normal position for the corners to give the car downforce. But for the second weekend in a row, the wing failed to snap back into place. Verstappen explained it perfectly after the race. He said it was a different specific fault compared to Austria, but it had the exact same outcome. As he turned into the corner, the rear wing did not fully attach, which meant he instantly lost a massive amount of rear downforce. When that happens at a high-speed corner like Stowe, you are just a passenger. Verstappen was not just angry, he was genuinely concerned for his safety. He pointed out that losing downforce in high-speed corners is incredibly dangerous, and he noted that he could have seriously hurt himself in both Austria and Silverstone. He said he was getting really fed up with the situation. Red Bull team principal Laurent Mekies had to come out and publicly apologise to his star driver. He admitted that the rear wing issue had sent Verstappen off the track and said the team was taking it extremely seriously. In fact, there are now reports that Red Bull is considering completely removing the Macarena wing from the car for the upcoming race at Spa, simply because they cannot trust it not to fail again. But the crash at Silverstone is just a symptom of a much bigger problem. The relationship between Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing is completely falling apart. This used to be the most dominant partnership in Formula One. Now, it looks like a team in crisis. The talent drain at Red Bull is becoming a serious issue. Christian Horner was sacked in the middle of 2025, and it is widely believed that Verstappen's camp had a hand in that decision. Interestingly, Horner was actually back in the paddock at Silverstone this weekend as a fan. He told the media he only wants to come back if he has a job to do, but telling Verstappen completely avoided him all weekend. It is not just Horner who is gone. Giampiero Lambiase, the race engineer who has guided Verstappen to all his world championships, has announced he is leaving the team. Paul Monahan, the chief engineer, is also reportedly on his way out. And then there is the massive elephant in the room, Verstappen's contract. Verstappen signed a huge deal that is supposed to keep him at Red Bull until 2028, but that contract is full of performance clauses. The most critical clause is active right now. It states that if Verstappen is not in the top two of the Drivers' Championship by the summer break of 2026, he is legally allowed to walk away from the team. Right now, he is sitting in 7th place. The exit door is wide open. The big question is, where would he go? He has had talks with Toto Wolff at Mercedes over the last few years, but Mercedes does not need him right now. They have Kimi Antonelli leading the championship and George Russell winning races. McLaren is also locked down with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri on long-term deals. So Verstappen is in a terrible position. He is stuck in a team that is losing its best people, driving a car with an engine he hates and a rear wing that he considers dangerous, and he has no obvious escape route to a better team. The frustration is clearly boiling over. We saw it in Canada when the team ignored his strategy advice and he coldly told the media that they would just have to feel the consequences. And we saw it at Silverstone when they refused his request to change the engine, and he ended up in the gravel trap. Max Verstappen expects perfection. Right now, Red Bull is giving him a nightmare. And if they do not fix these issues soon, this partnership is going to end in tears.